Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. We are back after a little international break, but our minds are very much now engaged back to FPL. I'm Gianni Patici, today's host, and I'm joined by regular co-host, all the way from San Diego, Mr. Dean Jones. Dean, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. It looks like you're on an international break of your own. Where are you in the world?
I'm in Menorca, and I fly home on Wednesday. So yeah, I'm currently sat in a hotel lobby, I'm sat next to the post box, and it's where people keep dropping off their postcards. And the post person has just come and collected the post and looked at me like I work here. And I was like, "Yeah, I've just sat at the desk." So yeah, I'm good, mate. Are you? Well, first, before we talk football, how's the mouse rat problem?
Well, it hasn't been seen again, so that's a good sign.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know that it's definitely over, but I'm hopeful. I am walking confidently around my own home again, which is always nice.
It sounds like you're talking about an ex-girlfriend. You don't know if it's over, walking comfortably around your own home.
Yeah, she was a rat as well. But yeah, so that on that front, mate, everything is good. We've had family actually in San Diego over the weekend, and they're still here. Taylor's family. So we've been doing a bit of sightseeing. And I tell you what, G, I did have my first moment as a soccer dad at the weekend
I
where I
saw your
actually
post.
cheered a goal that Dylan scored. You know, he's 6 years old. He plays in the under-8s team out here, and yeah, the standard's not amazing, but you know, he's having a great time and whatever else. He tends to score quite a lot of goals. At the weekend, they played quite a competitive game. Like the parents of the other team were a bit edgy, let's say.
Right.
And yeah, it was a tightly contested game. And then I was like, come on, just take him on a bit. Like you're shooting from too far away. Dribble with it and then hit it. 2 minutes later, he gets the ball, dribbles around the entire team, runs the length of the pitch, and smashes it into the corner. And he runs away like this, and everyone jumps on top of him. And all the parents are like, "Whoa!" I was like, "That is fun. That is a lot of fun." And I was like, and I was like, "That was really good." And I was like, "Imagine what it's like when your kid is actually really good. Imagine when they like make it,
Yeah.
when they're gonna make it." I was like, I can't even imagine what like I don't know. Foden's like parents go through, or what Marcus Rashford's parents go through, or what like all those England players that like I've watched come through, and as they're getting older, and you're like, oh my god, my kid's amazing, and like he's gonna make it. That is one moment in a not very good under-8s game gave me that like, come on, Dylan, let's go on a little journey.
Is he a striker? Is he like his same position as his old man?
He's going to be a forward, yeah. He tends to just play
No choice.
wide, and then he like waits for. Because what's funny about their football is like, there's especially out here at the moment, a lot of them are playing for their first year. They're just chasing the ball around, and Dylan's like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm waiting on the edges," and so he'll wait on the edges, and the ball will break free, and he's like, "I'm off," and then off he goes. So yeah, it's fine. What tends to happen out is everyone's got one or two good players, and that's it. So the other team actually had one really good player who was in goal when Dylan scored that one, and then they brought him out on pitch, and he was actually played like Marcus Rashford. Like this kid was, well, his finishing was better than Rashford's, but his intent was the same. He would just go past everyone. It ended up 4-4 the game, but it was yeah, it was a belter. But that was
Did you see that clip of the goalkeeper though the other day? This reminds me of. There's been a viral clip. There's under nines Frankfurt keeper.
Yeah, the goalkeeper like starts taking on the whole team, doesn't he, and scores. Yeah, it was a bit like that. Oh, that kid's parents will be proud. But yeah, in an international break, mate, where there really hasn't been a lot to watch, that's been my highlight, watching this under-8s game. England waste of time with Lee Carsley, doesn't, I think, even want to be there. USA had a decent game because they had Poch's first game, so that was not a brilliant match itself, but a good outcome. And there's a few other bits and pieces that happened. But here we go, mate. Finally, we can start talking about FPL again. It actually feels like everyone's shut down for the last week from FPL. I think everyone was like, oh my God, what is going on? Let's reset. But now everyone's ready to go again.
Yeah, I think so. The Monday kicks in and straight away you go, oh, there's FPL again this week. So like the calendar week starts today, therefore FPL starts today. So yeah, I'm well in FPL mode. I've got some good advice, I hope, coming up in today's show. We'll talk about the likes of Spurs and Man City, who many of us I think will beeline towards those teams. Mark says, played like Marcus Rashford, what, with a chip on his shoulder? FPL Freddie, my nephew coaches in Kansas. There's a great setup there. My nephew was picked up by Liverpool age 5, says Joseph. Wow. Dean,
This is the problem, mate. People do get picked up now at like 6 or 7. Like if your kid isn't in an academy, by the time he's 8, he's basically not going to make it.
Wow.
Like that's not even a joke.
I went to like the under 9s, or no, I went to like the under 10s, I can't remember, of Inter Miami a couple of months ago, and I watched Messi's son, and I watched Luis Suarez's son, and FPL Guna, who's sometimes in the chat. I went with him, his son.
Oh, his kid's in
I was
it,
playing in the same team, and yeah, Roger Jr. Check him out on Instagram. He's already got like 400,000 Instagram followers. He's like a 10-year-old, and he's not Messi or Suarez's kid, but he's in that team and he's a baller. And yeah, it's awesome to see. But it's like I hear you. Like when you're that age, you kind of know very likely that those that make it will be in academy from that young. Just tell us, Dean, before we chat FPL, you were in academy as a kid, right? You played for Fulham.
Yeah, and I left when I was 14 or 15. It was a different world, though. It was nothing like the treatment we had compared to the way they get treated today. Like, I think all we were given at the start of the season was like a Fulham sweatshirt. Don't think we even got tracksuit bottoms. We got a bag, and that was it. Like, you look at them today, like they're kitted out in like full club tracksuit. They've got like all the bits and pieces. There was none of that.
They're not cleaning boots for the first team either anymore, are they?
They're not,
that was a thing. Did you play with any big names? You must have done. There must have been some players you played with as a kid or against that now play.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably retired. They're probably retired from the Premier League now. Are they? Your age.
The one I played against, Steve Sidwell, Leon Britton,
yeah,
people like that. Yeah, I played against them.
Were they obviously like better than everyone else? So Steve Sidwell, for example, was he always going to be the kid that made it?
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, it was just like we played against him once and we drew 0-0 and it was like a massive achievement. And then him and Leon Britton were in the same team at the time. We played against them about 3 weeks later and they beat us 8-0. We were like, oh.
Don't get too high. Was he centre mid, Sidwell, at the time?
Yeah.
Always centre mid.
Everyone. It was funny when you're that age. You know, everyone knows who the good players are, and you know, like there's always a buzz around good players. So, let's wait and see. It's very different out here because you have to pay a lot of money to get into a good team.
I've heard that in America.
If Dylan wants to join a good team, at the moment he's doing like recreational league. When he steps up, it's about $2,500 a season.
Just for training and matches, like what are you paying for? Does that also buy a coach? Like, did the coach get paid?
That's more like exactly the coaches are paid, whereas you know the standard's no better than what you'd get in England for £200 a season, but it's $2,000 a season. Unbelievable, and it's a massive problem they've got out here that I've always heard about, and now I'm experiencing. There's some chat going on. FPL Freddie played 2 youth games for Wimbledon in 1997 and didn't hear any more from them. Unlucky Freddie, at least you gave it a crack, mate. I was probably at Wimbledon in about 97. I played for Wimbledon before I played for Fulham. Might have been just before that. But yeah, might have even seen you down there, Freddie. Tell me where you were training. Was it Richardson Evans? Little training field down there, might have been.
FPL Amateur.
No,
go on. You're on Maliki. You'll see FPL Amateurs comment in a second.
Yeah, Maliki says, a lad from my local club is in Southampton's first team. Who is it? Tell us his name. Dibbling?
Dibbling. I tell you what, we've got to talk about Dibbling today because I think he might be one of the enablers in the game at 4.6 million in FPL. Dibbling has got home fixtures coming up, I think, against Southampton, Ipswich and Everton in 2 of his next 3. Like, for 4.6 million, he can be on your bench. And rather than benching, say, a Semenyo, who's 5.6 million, why not bench a 4.6 Dibbling, put the extra million in your 11, and every now and then you start a Dibbling. But yeah, just final comment on this topic from the chat was hit the like button from FPL Amateur because Dean needs 2.5k.
Mate, do you reckon I can start a GoFundMe? People start GoFundMes for anything these days. Maybe
for
I
the
could
English lad that's in San Diego and sort of like
help my
sponsor the
kid
English
play
kid.
decent level football out there.
Do it for England.
Then he'll go and play. Yeah, I don't know who he's going to play for if he is any good. Yeah, thanks. Any donations, just let me know, and I'll open up my bank account to anybody that wants it. Should we crack on with some FPL? Because I tell you what, like we've got a big game week ahead, some big decisions. Don't forget, you can all join the members scheme that we have got now on CGO. And I threw a message in there this morning and said, lads, what do you want us to talk about? And one of the first things that we should probably address, because everyone's talking about it, is potential Saka Havertz replacements. What do we do for double Arsenal attack? That one came in from Abby, who's in the members section. Yeah, please do join if you fancy it. It's good fun in the WhatsApp group and we get extra video content, etc., etc. So let's start there, mate, because obviously Saka did limp off for England. What is your vibe on it right now?
Yeah, I think it's just like always in the internationals, especially Nations League, it's just precautionary stuff. So when Saka goes off straight away, yeah, you're looking to see if he's walking post-match. Well, we saw him walking without a limp post-match. You're looking at Lee Carsley comments because you're probably going to get more from Lee Carsley post-match than you are from Arteta pre-match, even a week later. Like Arteta's not going to tell us, but what Carsley has said is, yeah, like he probably would have been fine, but it's precautionary. He's gone back to Arsenal, so he's gonna be fine. I'm sure he is. Havertz, we know, was pulled, but again, will be fine for Germany. A bit like Fergie used to do with Man United. I think Rooney came out recently and said he used to be told going into friendlies, you're either not going or you're playing 45 minutes. And it was sort of like that. And Arteta seems to be one of the club managers in the Premier League that really instills that into his Arsenal players, and we've seen it quite a lot.
Yeah, well, if you saw what Mbappe did during this international break, then I think it's kind of setting a precedent for where we're at. Like Mbappe hasn't gone; he's the captain. Obviously, he has had a couple of niggles for Real Madrid, but the vibe is, and the message is, that's been reported that Mbappe's like, to be honest, I'm just going to play the important games from now on. I've got to manage. And you know what? Like,
Real Madrid's more important to him.
It's more important to his career. And like, obviously, that's not going to go down well for a lot of French people, but I kind of get it. And because they've got so many games to manage, I get it. And this is going to be something we see more and more because the Nations League players just don't care about, they just don't care.
De Bruyne's already pulled out of the next squad. De Bruyne's said the same as Mbappe, but gone, I'm not playing this time. And in November, don't want to be involved either.
Yeah, let me know about the World Cup if you fancy me for that one.
Yeah, if we qualify for the World Cup and I'm still first choice, I'll play. Trossard, by the way, played really well against Italy the other night. 2-2 draw. 2-2 draw, but I think Pellegrini was sent off on the 40th minute, and then they were 2-0 up. And I looked at it and was like, oh, you're playing against Belgium with 10 men for nearly an hour. You're gonna lose goals. But yeah, De Bruyne has done that. But De Bruyne doing it at the end of his career is very different to Mbappe doing it early on in his. Like Mbappe's a 25-year-old. Guys in the chat, let us know what you think to an obvious example of where the best player is the captain, but probably not a very good captain. And Mbappe feels like that, doesn't he? Like captains shouldn't be refusing call-ups at 25. But he's the best player, so they've given him the armband.
Yeah, it's no Griezmann, that's for sure, who was a lot different in terms of his attitude. Sally says Salah is also not playing tomorrow for Egypt. The head coach gave the players the choice. That's good news for me, for my FPL team. Salah's still in my squad, so I'm happy to hear that news. Sokan says, is Foden chasing last season's glory, or is he going to be a monster unleashed? I guess that's a good segue into players that we can start considering outside of Saka if you do fancy a change up.
Foden definitely needs some airtime, doesn't he? Like, we'll see in a minute. We're going to see some attacking data, so stay tuned for that. We're also going to see a fixture ticker, which helps the Man City argument. But I guess our question to everyone in the chat, and do get involved, guys, there's over 200 of you watching, which is wicked. Thank you, by the way, for choosing to spend your international break with us. Hit those buttons. You can subscribe as well. We should do a poll on selling or keeping Saka, says FPL Amateur. We'll certainly do that. You guys dictate the agenda, just like channel members this morning to Dean in the WhatsApp dictate the agenda too. So we're all here for that, guys. But Foden, Dean, what's your take on Foden? Because he hasn't been the same player since last season. Like we know he was Footballer of the Year, but for England, I think I'm right in saying in the World or the Euros, he didn't get a single goal or assist, and he played every game for Southgate. So what's going on? Because yes, it's a slow intro back to the team, but even last week, it's like, oh, he's got Fulham at home. He's going to start as the number 10. Well, both those things happened. They scored 3 goals and still no attacking him. He got a goal and assist in the Champions League against Bratislava. But do we have to wait and see real Foden, or can we gamble and jump on him early because it's Wolves then Southampton, and you go, he's going to start scoring very soon. So why not be a week or two earlier than everyone else?
This is it, isn't it? Wolves, Southampton, and Bournemouth is a nice little run of games here. Then it's Brighton. It's not like it's a really hard fixture. It's just a potential banana skin and a pretty big fixture. So they're 4 big games for Foden to get going. And if you're on him, then you're on him at a time when barely anybody else is, and you're going to have one of the best players in the game if he does start firing. It's impossible to believe that Foden's going to go and have a terrible season. He's too good for that. He's only owned by 5% of people. So obviously that's going to give you an edge if Saka isn't doing well, who's 34% owned. I mean, Palmer's shot up recently, 50% owned now, Cole Palmer. Everyone's jumping on him, and understandably so. But Palmer's got a stretch of tough games on paper. I know that I always say he's kind of fixture proof, but they're still tough games. And what we have seen so far this season, apart from the game obviously where he scored 4, is he's getting locked up a bit differently, right? Like teams are giving him more attention and trying to stop him from having the keys to the attack. And that's why we're starting to see Chelsea have to flow in other ways, and they are managing to do it. I do think it's a gamble to go Foden. It's 9.2 million. But if you've held back transfers that you've got, if you are on a wild card, that's what I'd be looking at. I don't think I'd be looking at it as like my one transfer of the week. I wouldn't take a hit for it. But on a wild card, or if I've got 3 or 4 transfers to use this week, then I would be considering it, because there's no way this carries on.
Yeah, I mean, there's Luis Diaz owners out there who, yes, you need a little bit of money to get to Foden, but with 2 transfers, it's easy done. And Luis Diaz is a player that we're not sure if he'll start on the Sunday versus Chelsea. I mean, I think he probably will. You'd think he gets the nod, but over Gakpo, who's been playing well. But it's a tough fixture, and you go, oh, Foden's got Wolves away, and Wolves are on the ropes. I don't know. I want Foden, but maybe I wait till game week 9, and game week 8 is a little bit more scouting for Wolves away. And then by game week 9, you've seen something, and you go, it's Southampton at home. This is where I need more than Haaland for Southampton at home. Whether or not Foden's playing well, it doesn't really matter if he's got Southampton at home.
Yeah.
And there is a world in which now, if Foden's had the price drops, and Palmer costs a lot, but he's no Salah in terms of price, there is a world where you can have Haaland +2. Now, it can't be Haaland plus Salah +1. It's got to be Haaland +2 of Saka, Foden, Palmer, because they're all around the 10 million price point. I think Foden's dropped to like 9.2, and that's where I think I'm heading. I think I'm going Haaland, Foden, Palmer is the trio I really, really want.
Yeah, I can see that. And I'm hanging on Salah at the moment just because even though he's not playing particularly well, he's going to be playing, he's going to be on pens, he's going to come up with those moments, and I just think he'll still be one of the top scorers in this game. I know I'm kind of throwing away potentially a couple of million on him compared to just having Palmer, who might be in and around, and that's something that I'm going to have to consider once I get to using my wild card, basically. But for now, I'm sticking with what I've got, even for a pretty tricky fixture coming up this weekend. But it's definitely a tough one. And Saka, I do think, keeps his place. We just did a poll, and I think it was 78% in the end. Still, what was it? Yeah, 77% would say keep Saka for this week. And I would tend to agree with that. I think that based on the form that we've seen from Saka so far this season, there's no real reason to jump off him. I know it's been more assists than goals, but he's still in the flow of everything. He's enjoying himself, and he's proven himself to be very important. Bournemouth away, Liverpool home, Newcastle away, Chelsea away. That's what Arsenal have got, though.
You've got to sell him. I'm surprised in that poll. We'll do another poll for Saka. We'll let's phrase this slightly differently. We'll say Saka owners selling game week 8, selling game week 9, or keep long term. And I bet there's a ton that are keeping this week but selling next week, because that's me. There's no way I'm carrying Saka for those 3 games, not at 10 million. Now, yeah, he could be like Kopami, go, I'll score points against anyone, and maybe he will. But this for many will be, I don't have Foden, and I can go Saka to Foden. Now, Saka's about to go on 3 really tough games, and Foden's got Southampton at home. Everyone's going to make that switch.
I think so, yeah. I think when you weigh that up and you're like, okay, Saka's home to Liverpool this week and Phil Foden is home to Southampton.
Yeah.
Surely that's where we should be.
And some in the chat said, what about Son? And it's a fair point. Like, many will go Saka to Son too. Spurs have got really good games. I feel like Son's a little bit of I've got money to spend, and if I spend more money on a midfielder, that'll get me more FPL points. But there's an argument to say Brennan Johnson and Son will produce very similar output. There's an argument to say Maddison and Kulusevski will produce similar to them all. I don't think I'm willing to spend 10 million-ish on a Spurs midfielder when I can get one for 6.5, who I think is similar. So let us know in the chat why Son. Like, yes, you get penalties, but come on, guys. You don't pick an F fantasy team just for pens. We're seeing fewer pens this season anyway, aren't we? We're not seeing anywhere near the same number of pens.
True.
So I would look at Brennan. Like, I don't see Son entering my team. I don't think Son playing wide in this Postecoglou system, as I owned Son game week 1 and 3 and saw no points. I had him in 2 and I saw points, fair, but that was against Everton and Pickford had a howler. I just think Son is routes to points and goals in central areas. Unless he's playing down the middle, I don't think I'm interested in spending quite that much money on him. What do you reckon, mate? He's not quite the same, is he? Obviously, there's no Kane there, but last season we saw him with no Kane, but playing central, we were like, yeah, this is great. I just don't like the fact that Postecoglou's wingers are always really wide. Now, that's fine, and it works for Spurs, and it means the number 9 gets loads of chances, and it means the fullbacks are inverted. Now, Brennan Johnson's going to play really wide on the right-hand side. I'm fine with that because he's 6.5 million. I don't need him to get 30, how many shots or goals or points. But Son, it's a lot of money for an out-and-out winger.
It is, yeah. I mean, I've got Solanke, and I'm quite happy with that, to be honest. I still think I'd probably go Maddison, to be honest, if I was to look deeper into that Tottenham team. I don't know why Brennan Johnson is not someone that we're all willing to trust yet, but it's just not. We're going to assume that the streak, as soon as we jump on him, the streak ends. Like, that's just the mentality, I think, with a player that's making that sort of impact. So it doesn't surprise me more people aren't picking him. Yeah, it's interesting for sure.
It's interesting. Do you see FPL Onions has made a really interesting point on pre-season? Everyone said Nkunku covers Palmer. Okay, we were wrong. By the way, Nkunku, with no Mbappe for France, scored a wicked goal the other night. Check that out. Now we're saying Brennan Johnson covers Son. I'm going to just check this. We're not saying covers. We're saying is a better asset. Like, who scored more FPL points this season? I'm guessing Brennan's outscored him. Let me just check
Must
that.
have. Yeah, he must have.
Yeah, 36 to 30. I'm not saying covers. Like, Brennan Johnson at the moment is a better FPL, regardless of price. He's scored more FPL points.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. Yeah, there's no doubt about that at the moment. Obviously, Sonny can change that in the course of 1 or 2 weeks. So we'll have to wait to see exactly how that continues. A few people pointing out that there are issues with Son's family at the moment, getting into a bit of trouble. Will that affect him? Honestly, I just think Son's got the sort of professional mindset where nothing stops him. He's kind of been conditioned to focus on what he's doing. And I don't think it would affect him. That'd be my hunch on it. Maliki said, I've already got Solanke and Kulusevski. Yep, you're covered then. You don't want to be getting any more Spurs players. Is Kulu going under the radar? Says Sashant. I mean, Kulu definitely is going under the radar. but I also don't think you're ever going to look at somebody else's team, see they've got Kulusevski and be jealous of them. So it's always a bit of a gamble. Kulusevski's playing really well, and I like his role in the team.
New role.
Yeah, so
New role, more creative. Playing 90 every single game, but he doesn't offer the explosiveness of a Brennan, does he? And he's not going to get the shot volume of a Brennan.
yeah, it's true. If you're looking at one of the other questions I was asked in the WhatsApp chat this morning is like, what are the best differentials? If you were like coming up with a list of players that we should be considering at the moment, who would they be? And obviously, Brennan Johnson is one of those. I think others are McNeil at Everton. Everton have a really good run of games here. Like, I know that Everton are having a bad season, but they've got Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham, Brentford coming up. And then it's Man United, Wolves. It's not like it gets like terrible. And McNeil is looking really lively this season. Like, so far, I'd have him down as their player of the season. So I have McNeil on my list. Madueke, I think, is good value if he's keeping his place.
100%.
I really like you look at what Madueke is doing in that front line. I think that's a great pick. I think Savio potentially. It's a bit of a gamble because we don't know for sure that he's going to start. But with City having 3 potentially easy games, I think Savio is somebody that we should have on our radar.
I nearly picked him, Dean, on my game week 6 wildcard.
Yeah, you
Savio.
did.
Do you remember? I was so close, and I'm glad I didn't because he didn't start game week 6 or 7. But he had been. I don't know why he's not starting, but he is surely going to start very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And one that I'll put into that Everton bracket of having good fixtures but not being a good team is Ipswich. A few people are shouting it out about Delap. British says Delap is criminally underrated. Ipswich have got Everton home, Brentford away, Leicester home as their next 3 matches. So over that 3-game spell, Delap's likely to return, right? I think that he's a decent shout. Ipswich not getting perhaps the results that they want, but they are scoring. They do score goals. They are a dangerous team. And I think in games like that, particularly the 2 home ones, you can count on them getting a goal. So if you haven't got that third striker, if you don't fancy Calvert-Lewin or whatever else, then maybe Delap's your man to be looking at as the differential.
Yeah, those teams like Ipswich and Southampton, even Leicester, you look at Buonanotte or Dibbling or Delap, the home games are the ones you can target. And they have, like Ipswich, you've just mentioned, have got 2 good home games coming up. Well, Southampton have got the same. We spoke about that earlier. I just written an article on my top 5 differentials, all under 10%. Oh. Phil Foden, it's not out yet. It'll be out later this week, but I've just loaded it. I've not sent it in yet. So exclusive. Under 6% owned, Phil Foden. And he's definitely on my list. Madueke, Madueke has, I'm just reading my blurb, I wrote this a few days ago. He's something like he's scored the 5th or 6th most points of all midfielders in the game so far this season. Like, no one owns him. Dibbling because of his price, Brennan Johnson, and then I put Nikola Milenkovic. He's only 0.4% owned at Forest. He offers a goal threat because he's massive, and they've just recently picked up, we forget about this signing because it was right at the end of the window, James Ward-Prowse. Now, what does James Ward-Prowse do? He takes a better set piece than pretty much anyone in the league. Milenkovic is going to score headers from Ward-Prowse free kicks. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is interesting when you start to dig deep, because now that we're getting a bit into the season, you've had 6 weeks of studying these teams, and we're starting to see which good value players there are coming through. You're absolutely right. Interesting that you have Madueke on the list as well, because as a Chelsea fan, you'll have more inclination of how much we're likely to see, and it does concern me a bit, like Neto and Nkunku and all this kind of stuff. But Madueke seems to have the shirt, and I don't know that that's gonna change. Maresca
2 bad games and he'll be out, but that's fine. You sell him then. You don't want him in your team. As long as he's playing well, he keeps the shirt.
Yeah, Claire, you're right. Like, Ward-Prowse, I think, is suspended this week. I don't know how many weeks his suspension was for the.
Was it 2 yellows?
Can't remember. Feels like about a year ago, but remember the card. So yeah, there is obviously that to look out for. Don't sign Ward-Prowse right now. Mark says Madueke is greedy, would be good for FPL, but he's not a great finisher. He's still improving, Madueke. Keep your eye on Madueke and how good that lad can become, because he's got big pedigree in the game, even at this stage. Mark says, yeah, it was 2 yellows for James Ward-Prowse. So that's interesting. Dibbling obviously is like one of the guys that opens everything up for your team at the moment. He's playing all the time for Southampton. He's dangerous as well and has points potential. Southampton play Leicester this weekend, followed by Man City, which you would bench him for, but then has Everton and Wolves. There's not many Southampton players that we're going to pick throughout the course of this season, but Dibbling is the one to have your eye on as a facilitator for what else he could do, but also because if he does come off your bench or you do need to play him 1 week, he might get you some points. So, yeah, Dibbling is definitely one to look out for. The other thing I was looking at, mate, is Nottingham Forest. They've got a run of games, Palace and Leicester straight up, and then West Ham, Newcastle after that. And given their defence this season, do you think it's time to focus on them as a genuine like target for teams that could deliver points for us?
I don't know, because what as in their defense hasn't been great, or their defense?
No, their defense could, because they still concede 1 goal.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Like, they are quite a good team. So
like Nuno teams as well over time always keep clean sheets, don't they? Like, I remember Nuno's team, even Spurs, but Wolves mainly. You're like, yeah, I remember we all owned a Wolves defender, usually one of the wing backs. Like Doherty was popular. I like Forest a lot, and when I wildcarded in 6, I took a bit of a punt on Forest because the expected data from the end of last season was so good in terms of they were conceding 1 goal a game, as you say, but the underlying data was really good. Their XGC was really high. And I looked at it and thought, everyone is going to Flecken in goal. I'm going to go Matt Sells, same price point. And Matt Sells has been so far the better option. And I look at the fixtures coming up, and I think Sells outperforms Flecken by a country mile. Sells did get injured during international duty, but should be fine. Precautionary, I hope. But if you can't get Sells because you're not going to make a goalkeeper transfer, 4.5 defenders. Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, they're all good options. Like, that Aït-Nouri is a great option at Wolves, Shashant's mentioned, but I like the 4.5 options at Forest. And we've got a fixture ticker we can probably show you, and we should see fairly high on that ticker, I'm guessing. Forest, Aït-Nouri's just had 2 11-digit returns, I think. So fair play. Like, Aït-Nouri's a great pick. Are Forest on here? Oh, no, they're not. That's weird. I thought they would be. But they have got good fixtures. I mean, some other teams with good fixtures you like here, Dean.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Wolves should be probably among this, to be honest with you.
Wolves are like 6th there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if Wolves didn't have Man City in game week 8, Wolves would be way higher on that ticker. But the Man City game puts them lower. But if you want Aït-Nouri 4.5, you've got Palace, Southampton, Bournemouth the next 3 home games after City.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? That Everton streak of games, like, if only you could trust them a little bit better.
Is DCL a keep then because of that, Dean?
I think he has to be.
You can't sell him now, can you?
Can't sell him. Like, you look at that run and you're like, I might as well just keep him.
Yeah.
Like, after that streak, if he's not showing a bit more consistency, like, I don't know yet when I'm going to use my wild card. So, like, he'll probably go whenever I wild card, I imagine, Calvert-Lewin. But for right now, like, it doesn't look like I'm going to be using my wild card this week. I was potentially going to, if there was if Saka was injured, if there was a couple of other injuries, because obviously I've got no bench and stuff. I was ready to go on that, but at the moment, I was looking at my team yesterday. I was like, we don't need to wild card at the moment. But City are the best team in the league, right? And Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton is a really good run of games, and I think we're going to see them put their foot on the gas a little bit here, because the Begiristain announcing he's going. All the talk at the moment around Pep, is he staying or is he going? I think Man City already know if he's staying or if he's going personally. Like, I spoke to someone the other day, they were like, look, nobody knows the answer to this, like, outside of that room of the corridors of power and the Etihad. They were like, but they've had enough meetings. They knew that this Begiristain moment was coming. There's a pretty good chance everybody already knows what's about to happen here, whether he's staying or going. But either way, I think Pep's going to come out like firing from here. I've just got a feeling that Pep's about to like turn his team into monster mode over these matches, especially because this next few weeks is a chance to take control of the title race. With Arsenal having those matches, and I know like Arsenal could well pull up some good results there, but you look at the 4 matches that City have got, that should be 12 points out of 12. Maybe one of them's a draw, but you wouldn't expect them to lose one. So it's a chance for City to really make the most of an opportunity and hope that, Arsenal drop points at some of Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, and maybe a surprise one along the way. So I am expecting big things from City, and that is why outside of Haaland, I still would quite like another attacking asset. I just don't know who it should be.
Foden's worth a gamble. I think he might be when you see these fixtures. And look, you don't want to go game week 8 because you go, Luis Diaz has got one more week. And then game week 9, you go, okay, now I can swap Luis Diaz, who goes to Arsenal. And that's when I jump on Man City. And it gives me one more week just to go, oh, Savio started and looks really good and he's now nailed. Or more likely Foden, or even De Bruyne. De Bruyne could be a thing. Let's wait. Knowing he's not playing for Belgium now in November either, De Bruyne's minutes might be all right between now and then. But again, we need to know about his injury. But you make a great point on Man City's sort of claim for the title early doors, because when we look at Arsenal to game week 12, and dropping points potentially against Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, and Man City winning all their games. And then game week 12, Arsenal get a good run, and Man City have some tough games, which is why game week 12 is a really popular wildcard window, Dean, because you can go, now I'm going to buy triple Arsenal for Forest and West Ham, Man United. And I might go down to just Haaland. I might offload 2 of my City assets.
Yeah.
So game week 12 and 8, which is where we are now, have been 2 wildcard windows suggested by some that perhaps still have their wildcard. But yeah, it's a really interesting observation that looking at the fixtures. Tottenham, I'm not sure what this. I think this is from the FPL boys. I think they've just selected teams here, so Forest probably are quite high. Yeah. But I mean, Spurs here. We mentioned Brennan Johnson, lows like Son, and lows like Son because he's the expensive talisman in years gone by. I don't know if he is a talisman anymore, but I think Solanke's a really interesting option because when we look at 3 of the next 4 at home for Spurs, they've got Man City and Villa are the only 2 tough games in there. What do you make of Spurs attack and even Spurs defense? Because Van der Ven, cheap and popular because he's been a bit of a goal threat. Pedro Porro for 5.6 million. I want some guaranteed clean sheets, and I don't think you get that with Porro. And now Maddison and Kulu are both playing as number 8. Porro's less advanced or less responsibility in terms of playmaking. Do we just like the Spurs attack? And if so, who are your top 3 in order? I'm going to go Solanke 1, Brennan 2, probably Son 3 over Kulu and Maddison, I think.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I just realised I hadn't sent my tweet out, by the way, before the show. It's all in drafts, all ready to go 10 minutes before, and I've just gone, it's 20 minutes of the show left. I didn't actually press send, so I've just pressed send. Hopefully we bring in some new listeners right now. My top 3 Spurs assets would be Solanke, Johnson, Maddison.
Do you know what? I'm going to copy you and go Maddison over Son. I don't know why I said Son, because I think for value, when we need to accommodate a Palmer into our teams and we want a Foden and a Haaland, you can't have it all. And I think Son will be one I'll happily pass on.
I just like, when the going's good, Maddison's good, right? Yeah. And that's what you're banking on. He's not great when things are up, when you're up against it. And
like when Leicester were going down, he pretty much down tools, I thought. I went to a few of those games and I was like, where are you? Like
the games when Tottenham have like been in control but then like lost control in the second half, he doesn't like step up again and deliver the moments like
Brighton.
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about that in him. But on the flip of that, I said before, I think this is going to be the best season of his career. And while some of his play is coming from a bit deeper, so that might affect his points, I think the assists are going to be there, and he's also still getting it upfield enough that he's going to get in among the goals. So
set pieces too. I think he takes all the corners, not sharing them with Pedro Porro as he has in the past.
Exactly.
He didn't get called up for England, though. So he gets the international breaks off. He doesn't play European midweek football either, because Spurs aren't in the Europa.
Yeah, Maddison's a good pick. Porro is a hard one because I've still got Porro because he feels like he should be a good own. And at some point, he probably will be. Real Madrid being linked with him at the moment in case they don't get Trent. And Porro is one of the names on their list. So we'll see what comes of that. But Porro is one of those players that you just assume the points are going to come, either because there's a clean sheet or because an assist, or then you get the weeks when he gets both. British reckons it's a trap. I don't know.
He'll
SG
score
says not
goals
worth
though.
5 mil plus. I think he might. He might still be just about worth it. It's a tough one. It's
If he
definitely
gets
a
an
tough one.
attack in return, he'll get bonus as well. Like he looks good for bonus, especially obviously if he gets a clean sheet, he'll get bonus regardless of an attack in return because his numbers are so good. He is creative as well as a goal threat. I think Udogi's not a bad shout. 4.9, like he's 0.7 cheaper if you can't stretch. I think if you're going Van de Ven 4.6, you could find the extra for Udogi. Guys, let's have a look at the best attacks and defenses. Do feel free to... there's over 336 of you watching. No, sorry, there is 336 of you watching. There's over 330 of you watching. This is from Fantasypedia. This is the best defenses so far. This is like a good... I feel like game week 8, international break, it's good to have a little review, right, so far. Now, what we can see here is this is filtered by, I think, goals conceded. So Liverpool conceded 2. Arsenal, Forest, 6. Newcastle 7, Man United 8. This is total number. We can see home and away there. This is what I said about Matt Sells and Forest defenders. Like Forest are a good defence. And the XGC number is usually pretty similar to those that have conceded the fewest goals. It is worth noting, Man United have conceded 8, but their XGC really jumps out as high, like 7 XGC at home. Man United are a defence to absolutely swerve.
Mazraoui was interesting me, but obviously he's not even there now. He's on the injured list. So even the cheap option that I thought might have some attacking output, Mazraoui is going to be missing for a little while. So that's not even there now. So yeah, United is a steer clear for sure. What do you think of Levi Colwill at Chelsea? I mean, is that it's about 4.5? I think might have risen slightly, but. Would you have any interest in that, or are Chelsea just going to concede too many goals because they don't know how to play out the back?
That one. That one. And when we look at even the XGC, like away from home, it's nearly 5. It's not brilliant. And even the home, I think Chelsea have had some good home fixtures. So I would swerve Chelsea defence. At 4.5, I much prefer the Forest guys. Okay. It's worth noting that last column says big chances created. I'm pretty sure that's big because this is a defensive graphic. That will be big chances conceded, I think. Our error there, guys. So that's big chances conceded. So what's really interesting, when we look at Liverpool, they've only conceded 2 goals, but actually their XGC is pretty similar to, I mean, it's slightly better than the others, but they have conceded 12 big chances. They've just had Alisson and bad finishing for reasons why they've not conceded many. Now Alisson is out, Dean, and that is the only big international injury so far, I guess, before the break. Hamstring injury, it could be 6 weeks. With Kelleher in goal, does that make Trent perhaps disposable, knowing the fixtures are bad, knowing we want the extra funds to reach a Foden or a Palmer or a Son? Could you sell, is Trent a season keeper because his stats are so good going forward? But look at the Liverpool fixtures, they don't scream clean sheets. And without Alisson, this data suggests they could.
Yeah, I mean,
could be more vulnerable.
They've obviously had a few spells now without Alisson, and they're having to start getting used to it. It's probably good that they've got a goalkeeper already lined up for next season if Alisson's going to keep having problems. No, I think I would still trust Trent. I think he's still a good pick. He's still one of the only players that gives me envy week by week, knowing that I haven't got him and I'm not likely to go there. It's just not where I'm going to be putting my money. But every time he plays, like there's that feeling that he could really hurt me if he does well, because he is still well owned. See his free kick for England the other day. He's got that in his locker every single week. And they can still get clean sheets. You see, they are the best defensive team in the league as it stands at the moment. And it's not because Alisson's been having to rescue them every week. That's not really the reason that they've been in that situation. Van Dijk's having a really good season. And I thought coming into the season, well, it might not be the end of the world if this is Van Dijk's last season at Liverpool. Maybe they should be looking beyond him now, given his age and how long he's been around. But I'm wondering if they could live without him, to be honest. Those are big boots to fill, quite literally. Jamie says he's keeping Trent probably all season. ISG says not liking Trent, under Arne Slot. That's an interesting take.
He's not as advanced, I'd say. No, he's not quite as advanced, but he's still creative. Like he's more deep lying playmaker at times from the right hand side. But you still get the set piece threat, and you get a bit of goal threat. He's had quite a few shots this season, and obviously the free kicks are amazing. Like, I think Trent under Slot is still good.
Would you lose Trent to get Palmer? What's the bet?
I'd consider it. It's genuinely one of my options this week. I could go Trent to a 4.5, and then I could go Diaz to Palmer.
Okay. Yeah.
I just don't know if this is the right entry point for Palmer at Liverpool away. Next week, that's more likely, that move. Because I think Trent against Chelsea has got good attacking potential. So has Luis Diaz. Like, Liverpool going to score goals against Chelsea, and Chelsea could struggle against Arne Slot's Liverpool, who have been good at the back, especially at home. We can see they've only conceded 2 XG at home. So not this week. Trent to a 4.5 is a drastic transfer, as Gary says. It is, but so's Luis Diaz to Palmer.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I'll end up keeping Trent and get Palmer out of the way.
Absolutely. Dr. Amaya says Trent to 8 Nori and Diaz to Foden next week. Yeah, that seems like a decent call for sure. Bit of Vardy chat that keeps coming up throughout the conversation today, actually.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I think it's more people who've got Vardy and wonder if they should ditch him or keep him. And
do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just saying keep. But yeah, I think that's a fair point to be at right now. Well, the question I had for you is, I'm in a dilemma of having Eze. I think a lot of people still have Eze, and a lot of us don't really want Eze anymore.
Yeah.
Who is the best Eze replacement right now, do you think? And what team would you be looking at if you wanted? Do you have any faith in Eze anymore?
Yeah.
And who would you replace him with if you ditched him?
Yeah, let's go to the attacking chart. There's a nice link there. Palace have been, I think, from all the teams last season, the end of last season to the start of this, Palace have looked the most, have had the biggest drop. Mm-hmm. And many are saying Elise. I just don't buy it. Elise was only fit for 50% of Palace games last season.
Yeah, more like Joachim Andersen, I think.
Yeah. And maybe just the honeymoon period of the new manager and whatever. Yeah, it's clearly not quite right. Mateta as well. Remember, Mateta had that period when Glasner came in where he was prime R9. Mateta's never really going to be R9 consistently. A bit like we saw with Muniz. Like, he's not going to be a top tier striker. He just was in a purple patch. So when we look at the goals scored, like, if you still own Eze and you don't own Mbeumo, I just find the money. Again, Mbeumo scored again.
0.7 though. It's getting bigger and bigger.
It's getting bigger.
That's the problem. I just saw someone say it's Joseph and Mbeumo obs. It's like it's not obvious anymore. Then it's not a like for like because they've gone in completely different directions.
But rather than going across to someone, it's worth saving the transfer and being able to just find that extra money and go with 2 moves to Mbeumo. Like, when we look at the goals scored, this table is filtered by, I think, home goals. So we can see Brentford have had more home goals than anyone else level with City. But Brentford and Mbeumo just look killer at the moment. And Mbeumo scored again, I think, for Cameroon yesterday. If you do want to move down or across, then I guess we look at Spurs, don't we? And Brennan Johnson or Maddison, as we discussed earlier. But do I think Eze is a sell? Absolutely. However, there's something at the back of my mind saying the analytics crowd, those that like computers to pick their teams, of which there's many good managers that like those whatever they're called. What's it called? What's the computer thing? It's called AI teams. AI teams. God, you can tell that's not my natural game. AI managers and many third-party fantasy businesses that you guys will all be familiar with, and they have their AI teams, will all say pick Bruno, they'll all say pick Son, they'll all say pick Eze. 90-minute men, talisman for their teams, and most importantly for the computers on penalties. It's just not one for me, Eze. The way they're playing and the functionality of the team and the output of the team in attack, it's just not right. So regardless of even fixtures, even if they're good fixtures, I would swerve them. But then something at the back of my mind tells me FPL Chai, friend of the show, manager I really rate, doesn't usually use AI predictors to pick his team. He wants to go and buy Eze this week.
What?
Yeah. And I'm like, so maybe I've missed something. Like, there's the argument of, form is temporary, class is permanent, and Eze is going to come good. But other than that, there's not much going for him, I don't think.
I mean, Forest away could look on paper like a good fixture, but it's not really. I mean, it's not really, given what we're seeing from Crystal Palace. We're not sure at the moment what the makeup is of the attack. He left Mateta out the other day, which was a big call. He moved Nketiah into a more striker role. I don't think he knows exactly how to get the best out of these three. He's got Salah in the mix as well. But given the way that Forest have been defending this season, yeah, I think it's a big call to expect points from Eze. There's definitely a temptation to just leave him for this week, but I just hate leaving players that I'm just not expecting any return on and just wondering if I can upgrade them. But yeah, I'd love to get to Mbamo, but I just can't. I mean, I've got just no money in the bank to get to Mbamo, and he's way too far out of my reach. 0.7 I would need to get to Mbamo, and so cannot even.
Madueke. You did build up Madueke earlier. We both like him. We both know he'll start. Chelsea.
Yeah, it's just not a great fixture, is it?
No, but then I guess if it depends when you're wildcarding. If you think you could wildcard in 9 or 10 or 11, and you're looking for a 2-3 fixture window, or if you're picking for the kind of foreseeable of 5-6 games,
yeah,
that's I guess a big difference. But if I was picking for the foreseeable, then Madueke could be a punt. But what about we see here Brighton, fairly high on the list. The manager scores goals, big chances created. They're up there with 11 and 8. Like they're good. They're not great, but they're good. The XG's good. The goals are good. Matoma, he's the only one of the Brighton attack that I feel is absolutely nailed. Like Welbeck, kind of, but you'll get some early subs. Matoma feels like you're going to get almost 90 minutes every game, and you don't cost a fortune, and you play for a well-functioning team.
Yeah, Matoma I can get to. Is he the highest point scorer in Brighton?
Probably.
Yeah, he might be.
Yeah, Welbeck's probably got more points, but in midfield it'll be Matoma.
Yeah, it is. I'm just waiting for it to load. But yeah, it is. He's got 31. Rooter's got 25. Hinshelwood's got 23. That's a bit of a surprise.
The fixtures read Newcastle away. I still see goals for Brighton. They'll score. Wolves at home, they'll score. Okay, then it's Liverpool, Man City. Sure, that's really tough. And I guess that's what will put people off. Again, for those that wildcard in game week 12, they might look at it and go, you now stock up on Brighton. Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham, Leicester, Palace, West Ham, Brentford. What a run that is from 12.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's, I don't know. I just don't know exactly where the Brighton output is coming from. Like, Matoma is the best player. Like, I still believe that. I just don't know he's going to be guaranteed to remain as the best points getter in this game. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, Hinshelwood, they should have made him in fullback this season. Yeah, he's having. I'm just looking at his returns. Hinshelwood, most of his points came in with a 10-pointer against Nottingham Forest at home. So not going to pay too much attention to the fact that he's the third highest point scorer for Brighton so far. But they're definitely a team on my radar if I do look to swap out Eze this week. Emile Smith-Rowe, potentially, I would be tempted by. Dwight McNeil, I would probably look at if I didn't have Calvert-Lewin. I don't think I want 2 Everton assets, even though, like, if the 2 was to combine, it would send me with a massive green arrow. I don't know that I
can't go double Sean Dyche attack ever in FPL. It just feels wrong. You go double Sean Dyche defense, just double Sean Dyche attack feels wrong, doesn't it? It
feels wrong, and it probably is wrong. But McNeil is having a really good season. So if I didn't have Calvert-Lewin, I probably would be picking McNeil over Eze. So yeah, I got a headache this week in terms of rolling the transfer or keeping it. I guess it will come down to when I think I need to wildcard. So I'll have to figure that out before Friday.
Yeah, I like that. When we look at the other teams on this list, I don't think anyone really jumps out as like, you could punt on a Man City midfielder at that point. Like, you could go, I think Bernardo Silva is finally going to start being not only one of the best players on the pitch, but the best FPL players. He scored for Portugal, I think, last night. He has looked a bit more of a goal threat in recent weeks. Like, he's taking shots. But the problem with Man City budget mids or mid-price mids is, 1, often their rotation risks, Savio, Doku, Grealish, or 2, they might be guaranteed to start Bernardo Silva, but over time, they've never really been FPL assets because they're assist of the assisters. They're neat and tidy, but they don't actually get many chances.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the things to consider. Honestly, my brain is a little bit fried for this week. I keep thinking, I'm just looking down here at my team as I was looking at that, and I was like, I really want a wild card, but it's such a waste this week. Like I see opportunities, and like the names that I'm jotting down, like as we've been talking today, like I could really mix things up a bit by bringing in like Dilap and Dibbling to like open up some funds, and I could get rid of Eze, and I could probably get rid of Porro and bring in cheaper. I could have a really nice team for this week, but it does feel like a bit of a waste of a wild card this week. And I was just literally staring here at my team and starting to jot down names that I would bring in. But I think the sensible thing for me to do is going to be to roll. We will be doing a Friday show as normal, everyone. So we'll be revealing our teams on that day. G, are you doing a Wednesday show? Will you be traveling, or what's the plan with that?
Yeah, I'm hopeful I can do a Wednesday show around lunchtime, so an hour slot before this. But so yeah, going to check in on that. But I am flying back Wednesday afternoon, so yeah, it will maybe be a Wednesday show. If not, definitely a Friday. We'll be doing our Friday in the normal slot. And yeah, Jim says is Kudus worth a punt. I like West Ham. I like West Ham because they just scored loads of goals against Ipswich. But then I have to remember it's Ipswich, and we've seen an underwhelming attack so far. But Bowen and Kudus are clearly their two players you could own, and the fixtures are really good for West Ham. But I don't know if I'd be willing to go there just yet.
Yeah, I mean, look, their last performance was the best one so far this season. Out of their big performers, Tadibo, Kudus, Bowen, we were finally seeing them with big games, but it was Ipswich. That's the problem.
And they're at home. It was like Ipswich at home is as good as you're going to get all season.
Yeah, and I bought into Tadibo for that game thinking, oh, you know what?
Did you? Unlucky.
A last minute thing. I was like panicking about my defence. I was like, I'm going to get Tadibo in instead of Robinson, who won't keep a clean sheet at Man City. I'll get Tadibo in. He might actually keep a clean sheet. So I was gutted that they conceded one. Yeah. But yeah, West Ham, obviously a big fixture this weekend for them, and not one that I particularly have high hopes for them in. But beyond that one, who knows?
Yeah. Salah and Watkins to Haaland and McNeil for free. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have Haaland, you need to get him for Wolves, Southampton. Like, that's the run where you're going to be captaining him. And if you're not going to captain Haaland, then maybe don't transfer him in. Like, I'm not saying you have to always own this guy, but if you think he's the best captaincy option for the next few weeks, and he absolutely is for me, yeah, you're going to want to own him, I think. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We didn't expect to have over 300 of you in, so that's been awesome. Loads of you have been newbies as well. So all those newbies out there, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button, because Chasing Green Arrows, we only do lives. We involve you lot as much as we can. You dictate the agenda. On Friday, Dean and I'll be back for a deadline. Me and Big Man might be back on Wednesday. Keep your notifications on for that. But for now, we will say our goodbyes. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.